Alright, we're alive. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another scene set on the Chronicles of Darkness, Vampire the Requiem, a Requiem for London. Tonight, we set the scene of Julian T. Goodman once more. Who's come to visit the Axis chapter house somewhere in the south of Lambeth. A series of a very large gym and fitness center that has many additional faculties for use of the Ordo. Julian, you enter the establishment. You are able to get in as you have been provided in your time here with a key card that just allows you free entry into the building. Only members of the Sworn are allowed in on a regular basis and or are permitted free entry. Other Ordo have to make some sort of arrangement. But you can simply enter, pass the desk, and into the main halls where you can already hear the muffled sounds of sword clashing, flesh being impaled, and bones crunching.
When he gets to the sounds of violence, he looks around because he assumes that the case is that it's a training seminar, so he's not gonna try to interrupt it yet.
As you head in, once you're in the main hall, you see a few. Most of them all look rather young, in the sense that they do not look like decrepit corpses. At least most of them. You recognize a couple. Let me show them to you. You see. You see this woman, Rachel Brassard, neonate of the Sworn, much like yourself. And Karen, who appear to be sparring. Karen appears to be mentoring Rachel on asymmetric conflict. You see that he's basically holding her in the air, and she doesn't really have much on hand that can really react to it, and he is lecturing her on it. Karen looks substantially aged. He looks several decades older than he was before. He now looks quite old and wrinkly, but is still vaguely recognizable, in part because he looks so distinctive as an individual. But when he is done, he drops Rachel. Several of her bones need to knit internally. You hear the bones clicking and snapping back into place. You see a few ghouls who are looking after the place. One of the ghouls begins cleaning up the small mess of blood. How much speaking of which, how much vitae does Julian currently have in his system?
He actually has above 3 today, so he's at 6.
He's at 6? Okay, so yeah, he's at no risk of Hunger Frenzy.
Yeah.
It is a fairly small amount of blood, so likely wouldn't have put you at risk to begin with, but yes, but no. Okay, well, walk on up to you, and he will, he'll say, companion. You look better than most. His voice is actually quite gravelly, representing the advancement of his age.
Yes. Right now, I have the convenience of looking distinguished. And he nods his head respectfully to him and kind of has the card in one of his hands, his ID card. I appreciate you not changing my card's availability. Nice to know that I'm not completely disowned.
It is traditional within this city that if we are to take your access from you, you would be losing a lot more. We expected you to work yourself back into the sex good graces. If not, then well, we would not need to act. We would simply be called upon by the rest of the Ordo.
Indeed.
He doesn't say this maliciously, he states it very matter of factly.
No, Julian is in complete understanding, to a point. If I was really excommunicated, I'd be beheaded, not just simply out of this ordo.
Pretty much. You'll come here to train, or another matter of business? I've not seen you here in quite some time.
A mixture of both. I've come to report my findings of recent. And he will actually go into his pocket and present a small, like steel flask that you can get from any type of like convenience store or grocery store, and shake it a little bit.
Karen looks at it, tilts his head, waits an explanation.
Once the refinement is done, this particular concoction will allow a control over the beast that most people, unless they're in the coil of the worm, will never have. They'll help them resist the frenzy, and it can be dispersed in blood/water supplies. Against the kind, it makes them more docile, though it doesn't necessarily make them, quote unquote, more vulnerable, just less likely to be easily enraged. And like I said, for us, it makes fringing much more difficult. So there is a mild side effect that I can't get around of. So within the next about 12 hours or so after ingesting it, an intense sense of lethargy will occur. But in 12 hours, we should be in our safe places sleeping anyways.
Hmm. He he looks at the file briefly. and says, "That is quite an interesting innovation. Would you mind if it be tested?"
And he will nod his head. Said, "Everything must be tested. It's our way."
He will look to his fallen sparring partner and he'll say, "Brassard, come here." And you see the young woman, or youngish. She looks a decade older now. But she walks on over and just silently accompanies Karen as he just hands her the vial. And actually, before he does, he looks at you and says, "You don't mind if we use this, do you?"
Is that? It's a prototype. It's meant to be used.
Excellent. Drink this. She does the sort of blink double take. Is it, what did you just ask me to do? I'm sorry, Commander. Drink it. I've heard.
And in a slightly playful tone, "He's chasing your tail."
Well, I suppose. Very well. And you're certain this will work?
At best, you'll be tired. Or I guess, really, at worst, you'll be tired. At best, I said, frenzying should be nigh impossible for you.
Okay. She looks at the vial rather skeptically, but seeing that the inventor and Karen are both sort of staring at her expectantly, she takes a few steps back and just caves to the peer pressure and drinks it.
So you would notice the taste of it is obviously a mixture of chemicals, the bitter and unflattering taste of animal blood, and the weird combination like you taste like in modern medicine of something added to it to make it taste sweeter to make it go down a bit easier.
Ah, it is awful.
Well, it's a prototype. Eventually, it'll taste like bubblegum. Again, a small laugh from his face.
Cam will just ask you, is there any specific period of time we need to wait, or should the effects be immediate?
Near immediate, no longer than 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
So it's meant to be used in mild conversation. So. But you should be, since the technique is based off of the leashing of the beast with the coil of the worm. The level of control you'll feel, which I say control in the sense of resisting the beast from taking over, will be substantial. It's based off of my mastery. But it's not going to give you the sense of direction that you may have heard about from the coil, just the ability to resist it. So when you need to drink it in case you're in a high self situation, possibly forced into daylight, the list goes on of reasons not to frenzy, I would drink that.
Allow me one moment. I shall just procure the tools I need to test this theory. He's actually going to walk off. Not far, actually, just to the corner of a room. He's not the only kindred in this room. It's fairly sparse. There are a couple of other kindred. And there's a whole set of tools on one side of the hall. It's actually a workbench as well. And he picks up what appears to be some sort of some sort of hot iron poker. That's all the way at the back of the whole, all of these other torture tools, and heads on over with it. And is just going to quite forcefully press it against Brassad's neck. She's gonna roll.
She gets +5 dice to her roll. Julian will kind of raise an eyebrow a little bit, his mind thinking, why did he just lash out on her? Less actual physical damage on the body that way.
I'll have her roll. She normally has a decent number of dice to this. Now there's going to be much higher. She actually doesn't get an incredible result, even with that hilarious amount of dice, but she does succeed. She stumbles backwards. She makes a quick. She sort of whips her arm at Karen for a brief moment, and you hear the low growl of a beast, but she doesn't enter frenzy.
Okay.
And Karen will continue to press her several times. I'll just have her roll a couple more times. No, that should be 9. And after pressing it against her about 5 or 6 times, applying absolutely brutal pressure to her. Just her neck and collar is now covered in these burns. He will stop and simply, with his mind, move the poker back to its initial spot. In a heated in a heated tray. It would have been difficult to resist the call that many times. Brassard, how did you feel? It was... I did not feel the call nearly as strongly. My beast was not as reactive. Although it got stronger under repeated stress. When you bind me to Infernal Time, I almost lost control, as if it were... well, as if I were being burned with a poker. Then it appears this concoction does hold merit.
There is a satisfied look on Julian's face. And took a few unwilling victims, a lot of animals, but it works.
So it would seem. An impressive thing. How many of these do you think you could make?
It's designed, especially since this test has gone well, I can change some of my notes once I get back to my location. It's designed to be dispersed in blood and water. You could easily, quote unquote, put it in a punch bowl and set it and sedate a whole entire, ballroom, for example.
You could sedate a mortal ballroom. You think sedating a lot of kindred is going probably not going to have the same effects. Although you could probably sedate multiple kindred of a single creation, maybe. It depends on how much of it you create out of character.
Yeah.
But you do have the means to produce a fair amount of it. I wouldn't say mass produce, just to give you some context. So Julian knows how to answer.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to mass produce it, but you could definitely produce enough for the axe. You could definitely do that. The axe are comprised of only a few dozen kindred. That is a fair number of kindred, but again, you can also produce a fair amount of this stuff.
So the main weakness of the concoction is timing. So she is now, though she is feeling fine right now, as I said, within about 10 to 12 hours, the suppression the beast feels, she will eventually feel. And when that happens, she is going to want to sleep. And all of a sudden, passing out in the middle of the street is a bad idea. So no scale is perfect.
No, but this is definitely going to be of value in our conflict.
Especially if I can get this with month ends and the world doesn't shut up implode as it is right now. It will help with people in their hunger frenzies.
Yes. Some of us more than others. You can actually infer. You can make an empathy check to see what he means by that.
Let's see. Do I actually have a dot in it yet? No, I do not. So, composure, manipulation, or presence.
Oh dear. Well, you can roll anyway.
No, I was asking composure, manipulation, or presence.
It's wits empathy. If you're trying to perceive something, the attribute is usually wits.
Okay, no. All right. And let's see. Got success. So I noticed something.
Okay. You think he's referring to himself when he makes that statement?
Julian will. His eyes more say it than his body language, kind of a mutual understanding because he's been lost to hunger frenzy before. Which I did want to talk about that a little bit outside of my next finding that I've had. It is obviously, as he points to himself and then points to Karen and the squire, it's like getting worse out there.
It is. It concerns me.
As it
But
should.
all we can do is hold our corner, and that is what we shall do.
People have been talking about making alliances already, though. I'm curious if the Axe is aware of that.
The Axe is aware of some individuals among the Order. In fact, a significant number of them who have aligned themselves with the Invictus. It appears to be the direction we are heading, or were heading. I've also heard word that the Sanctified may be suing for peace.
There's a there's just straight up confused look on Juliet's face. I was like, if the sanctified are wishing for peace, that sounds like they're losing. Because I've never heard them broken for peace unless they are, or they want to prove how much superior they are to another person.
Hmm. I have my doubts. In the event, it has been requested that each member of the Swarm put forward a representative to stand for them in negotiations. Unfortunately, the Rising Dragon Lannistav cannot attend due to the current situation here. And while I could pass for mortal My temperament around the sanctified has been brought into question. He says, his face looking quite tense. And he almost looks as if he would spit upon the ground, either in confirmation or refutation.
I remember our last discussion about the sanctified. But if Luke Tai and he just told me his name. If Luke Tai
You have
and
ties to them, don't you?
what the sanctified? Barely. What? At best, maybe because I've been trying to keep peace between me and a few individuals. What? Charlie. Yes, we have a good standing with each other, but I don't think she's in the position to make any demands of the sanctified, regardless of who her sire is.
Hmm.
And sending a Ordo on probation, since at the time, no, Joshua basically outed me at that particular meeting may look like a sign of weakness. Unfortunately, Karen, you're going to have to suffer through it.
Hmm. Well, we will examine our options. Although you're currently the only one I'm aware of with any ties to the sanctified at all among us.
His face kind of scrunches a little bit in mild scrutiny. I can't be the only one. Surely there's still people that pay lip service amongst the Ordo, at least.
The Order of Mysteries has a few. But they are not of us. We are fighters, and the sanctified are our enemy. Most of us cut off ties with them. Most of us never had any. At least among the X. I'm not aware of anybody among the Dying Light who associated with them either, but I speak with few of the Dying Light outside of Thatcher and Leighton. So I would not know. I'm only aware of, well, I'm only aware of those among my fellow Sworn.
Well, if I am going, if I am called, I will be there. But let's just say there's probably, I would hope somebody would be a bit more appropriate than me. I'm not the best orator either.
I do question the decision as well. I feel like this is very much the forte of the mysteries. I do not know why we need to be present other than as a deterrence to any would be foul play or betrayals. But supposedly it was the mysteries that have requested it. So perhaps they believe we will look stronger if our three branches pose a united face before the sanctified. I am uncertain. This is not my field.
I would assume that would be the case, but unless they are actually
Hmm.
told, most people aren't really aware even the exact names of the branches of the order. They're just aware that we're in a pseudo caste system. But that could be same for the sanctified.
Hmm.
But looking quote unquote official and as professional as possible would not hurt us. But the thing is, even if we do come in as a united front, we've been outed that we have different opinions, different enough that we're willing to experiment people for the Invictus for a fee. So, how well they take that, don't know.
Hmm.
But as I've come to the realization, outside of those few individuals, the Sanctified will believe what the Sanctified wants to believe.
Well, as you say, perhaps they believe they are losing. We will see. I did hear that you dealt them something of a blow the other night. And that was no mean feat. I'd imagine they're definitely running short on the soldiers.
Killed
But
five of
in
them
any
not too
case.
long ago. Me and Irons.
That is what I was referring to. I had heard that you had dealt with several of them. And if they were crusaders, well, that is a heavy blow to them. The crusaders are as the axe are to the order. Oh, sorry, the crusaders are to the sanctified what the axe are to the order.
I believe you. It was not an easy fight. I'll give them that.
That is a deep blow to them indeed. They'll definitely think twice about attempting to pick us off again. Although, he thinks for a moment. Perhaps, well, it is certainly not the only defeat they have suffered against us. So perhaps they are truly at their wits' end. Well, this is just another ploy. Or maybe they are at their wits' end and they intend to betray us at the meet. We'll see. This is, of course, if we decide to entertain them at all. Mystery seems to want to.
Well, despite our typical aloof nature, people are afraid of us more than usual. We try to give them a reason to think that we're not a total group of madmen and women.
If anyone in this city is mad, it is the sanctified.
Well, as far as I can tell,
How hungry the Invictus has ever been.
indeed. But as far as I can tell, what's bad right now is that they're fighting amongst each other when apparently there is a literal horde of owls under our feet.
Perhaps that is why.
As far as some anecdotes, it's heavily within the Invictus Carthian movement and a bit of the Sanctified. Same with us as well, but doesn't confirm what exact people they were when it comes to the Ordo. It's more
As
conjecture.
soon as you mention owls, Brasset just begins to leave. As in, she is just quitting this conversation completely.
There's a mild sigh from Julian, but it's not unwarranted, so he's not really upset with her.
She sort of just leaves unannounced. It kind of takes you a few seconds, and then both you and Karen realize, oh, she left.
You don't have to tell me, sir, but I assume she's had a bad experience.
I prefer them not to be mentioned in my presence.
Yes, sir.
She is wise to leave. They are not things to be invoked lightly, if ever.
That's why I don't use her name. But they are a
Well,
problem.
at least you are no fool. I must attend to Lenistav's duties. His state has left him unable to act in a more public capacity, so I have been required to take the reins. But I will inform him of your accomplishments.
Oh. Oh, and thinking about that, I guess I should show off the last one as well.
Oh, pardon?
Oh, when he brings up accomplishment again, he's like, oh, thinking of accomplishment, I should show off my other discovery as well.
He just sort of raises an eyebrow.
All right, I'll spend the willpower to stir the beast. Yep.
Oh, you got it. Oh, you get an exceptional success. Nice.
So, because this is merely for flavor, since I'm at this level already, Julian will quickly dash to Karen, and he would notice, because I believe Karen is a maquette, right?
No, he's a gangrel.
No, he's a girl. No, Mukai is a maquette, but
Mukai is a Makai, yeah. Katana Mukai.
he will notice that nearly in a blur, um, Julian kind of dashed into him, and his face and his body take a near dire form from the beast taking over his body. But when he would be about to touch Karen's face with a hand, he's revert back to his regular self just as quickly.
Yeah, you move so fast that Karen is taken completely off guard and doesn't even have is completely would have been completely unable to defend himself should you have chosen to struck him. But as you and it's only as you come out of frenzy that he actually pulls away. A fraction of a second that feels like an eternity in terms of the time between your actions. For he just sort of slowly, with one hand, nudges you backwards. I see you have undergone another chrysalis.
It would be my first. I have. This is. Yep. I have mastered the coil of the worm. My first coil.
That is a claim I'm sure Lenistav will wish to put to the test, but it is news he will love to hear. These nights have seen a lot of perpetual turmoil for our sect. It is refreshing to see you be Well, see one of our own for once be the harbinger of nothing but good news.
I've already been an albatross long enough, I think.
You've certainly come a long way since that incident a few months ago.
And Julian would nod to that.
I'll inquire with him about reinducting you into the Sworn proper. You have shown vast tracks of improvement. You have shown that you have promise. And you have proven yourself again. I'll speak to Lenistav on your behalf. But I must excuse myself. I must see to his duties before I reattend him.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Evening, Karen.
Dr. Goodman, please feel free to stay as long as you like. And with that, he will depart. I think with that, we can end the scene there. Thank you, players for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time.